So I did it. I got my brother arrested. Well, this story takes place in India. And my brother, he has not been the best influence on me, but for some reason, my mother just adores him and always takes his side over me. Well, I'll be honest with you, he fell into a pretty hard time and he got into a lot of bad things. And one of the things he did, he borrowed my debit card and made some very bad purchases on these websites that I'll get into because they are pretty dark. And, well, I'm the one that gets caught when the police show up at our door because it was my debit card. However, I have a little bit of evidence, a little bit of proof that proves it wasn't me, it was my brother, and I get him arrested. But my family's not cheering me on. Oh no, quite the opposite. They're mad that I did not take the fall for my brother. Believe it or not, they had the nerve to say this while my brother was locked up. I know how misleading the title can be, but you must know the whole story about what happened and why such a close bond that my brother and I had was tarnished in a matter of seconds. I might be wrong here, but it's for you to judge. I'm Anya, a rather simpleton girl who has set her base in Delhi, a marvelous city here in India. I have a younger sibling, Jay, whom I absolutely adore, and I live in an apartment shared with my parents and my brother. Life before had not been really easy. You see, my mother and father both worked hard to make sure we lived in luxury, and by the time I had something of my own set up, we had already progressed in terms of finance. I got a degree in tech and worked at a company with a rather large package. My brother Jay was still finishing up his degree, and, well, we shared a close bond that siblings usually do. There were fights over stuff that would end up being divided when our mother, Nina, intervened. It went on like that for a while. Jay had grown up a privileged kid. He got all that I did not have while growing up. I always prided myself on my independence and achievements, and I worked hard to get into a good college. Whereas my brother had everything handed to him on a silver platter. The bond between us, however, did not diminish over the years. It was only after one particular incident that everything overturned in our household. I had not given importance to friendships as my brother had. Sure, I did have friends, but I had always kept them at arm's length. My brother, Jay, however, had quite a close bond with his friends, especially one such friend, Krish. Krish and Jay would have no secrets between them. I warned Jay of trusting strangers completely, but who would have ever thought that it was your own brother you would not come to trust? I started at my new job quite recently. After a multitude of selection rounds and interviews, I could finally say I can afford stuff on my own. I wanted to be independent and explore, which was why I was having thoughts of moving out. My thoughts were not met with a nice response from my mom, and as I started my job, Jay started college. She wanted me to be around to help him out with his courses, even though I had said I would be much too busy with work. I, however, did not mind tutoring my brother and agreed to my mother's request. We all live in a shared apartment, which meant there would be little to no privacy, and I despised that fact. Even though I trusted my family, I too felt the need for privacy sometimes. I especially did not like it when Krish would come over. He had a habit of not knocking or asking to come in. He would just barge in and strut around like he owned the place. I had not had a good feeling about Krish ever since I met him. I did not know my gut feelings about him would be so true. However, Krish was a spoiled kid who had bad habits. According to what I've heard from my friends and my brother's other friends, Krish was not the company you should be having. I told Jay to quit hanging out with Krish, and he asked me not to tell our parents about it, as they would take rather drastic preventive measures. Jay had been to a party with Krish, and where he was boasting about the profit he was gaining by conducting the illegal business. Jay supported his friends, but someone had snitched. Within minutes, cops showed up to conduct a drug bust, and fortunately for Krish and Jay, he had not been using at the party, and without any sort of proof, the police had to go without making an arrest. Lucky escape for Krish, but Jay was not as lucky, as he got reprimanded by my parents as soon as they got wind of what happened. I had a habit of leaving my purse around, and I trusted my brother and parents enough. A week or so later, after Krish's narrow escape, I noticed my purse laying open on the bed. My card was missing. I immediately called Jay to ask him if he had taken my card, because I knew my mom and dad would not have taken it without informing me first. Jay confirmed that he did indeed take it, as he had to buy something related to his college, and since I was not around, he had hoped to use it and return it by the time I had come back from my shower. I told him it was okay, but maybe he should have told me about it before he took the card. My credit card did not have a huge limit, so I was not tense about him spending a lot using my card. I sat there waiting for my brother to return home. He came back with the card and asked me to make an order on some weird-looking website. Within a day or two, my brother showed me a pair of sneakers and a book, which was apparently what I had paid for using my card. I thought it to be okay despite the weird website and did not think very much of it. In a few days, my life and family would come and change forever. I trusted Jay to make wise decisions henceforth and hoped that he would realize it soon, but he did not. The next time, it was not a mere notification on my screen of an illegal purchase made using my credit card. It was cops at my door an hour later after the purchase. I was having a lazy day, being in bed, when I was woken up by a ping on my phone. It said that my card had been blocked and I would need to contact the bank for further details to unblock it. Well, I thought that was weird, and waited to ask Jay when he came home, and soon there was a knock on the door. It was more of an urgent, stern knock, and I opened it to find a stern-looking cop standing along with a few other of his fellow officers. He asked me if I was Anya, who owned a credit card. Upon confirming the card details, he told me how my card had been used for a rather large amount of illegal purchases, and that I was under arrest. I stood there dumbfounded, but before I could collect myself, the cop slapped the handcuffs on my wrist and led me away to the police station. I asked to borrow a phone, and I made the call to Jay, asking him what he had done. Jay and my father arrived at the police station while the cops were taking my statement. I denied everything, having knowledge of any such purchases having been made using my card, but the cop did not heed to my cries. Instead, he was adamant that I had done it, and I understood his point too. After all, it was his job to arrest the person who had committed the crime, and the card was in fact in my name. I took Jay aside and asked him if he had used the card, and he denied it. I could see he was scared, which was why he was denying it, and no one else had used it, and it was billed at the same site he had made the previous purchase. I asked Jay if he had increased my credit limit, to which he accepted he had done so as he planned to use my card for a big purchase. I was pretty infuriated. Jay's denial was only making my situation worse. You see, the police had arrested me for my brother's wrongdoings, and they told me I would be facing a 1-year prison time, and the bail was set to a quite large amount. My father told me he would get me out of trouble soon, but I still had to spend a night in jail. It was by far the worst night of my life. I could not eat, sleep, or drink, and words failed to describe the mental torture I had to go through just to keep myself sane, until my dad figured something out. And sure enough, as he had promised he did, the next day, as I lay waiting in hopes of my name being called because I had a visitor to see me, my dad had gone to meet a friend of his, Ravi. I had met Ravi before at Dad's usual parties, and he had only had this friendly demeanor about him, but usually kept to himself. He would chat with Dad for a bit and go back to his corner and just stand and watch everyone dance and mingling about. For a person so introverted, you would not imagine his profession. You see, Ravi was a lawyer, and a mighty good one at that. There was nearly a case that Ravi has lost, but None? I'd always wondered how such a meek person was able to stand for others and fight their cases boldly in court. Among pouncing wolves and sheep in black clothing, I would, however, soon come to witness as he did so, but this time it would be for me. Someone who I've never imagined as going to court. My dad arrived soon with Ravi in tow, and their presence had calmed me down, and I narrated my whole story to Ravi about the initial purchase for my brother, which was not such a big amount, but at the same website as the recent purchase. As he sat in silence for a while, as he thought, it was strange how a large amount of purchases from the same site had tipped off the police, but that had not happened when I had made the first purchase, which was small. Ravi then went on to talk to the cops. Minutes turned into hours as I and my father sat waiting for Ravi to return, and he came back with papers in his hand, and I was not free to go, as I had to present my case in court, where a judge would decide if I was guilty as mentioned or not. A date for the hearing was set, and my stress levels only grew once it neared. My dad has been my sole pillar of support throughout this whole ordeal. My mom was nowhere to be seen, and Dad brought her in to see me one day, and she had only ranted about how Dad had forced her to come, otherwise she would not have. She did not take my side. However, she told me to keep my mouth shut, and when Ravi was present, she proclaimed rather loudly and accused me of wrongfully framing Jay. Dad had to drag her away to give me a moment's break and a bit of mental peace, and I asked him not to bring her here again. On the day of the hearing, I was this big blob of a jittering mess. My stress levels were absolutely through the roof. The only thing or person that calmed me down was my dad. He sat beside me as he watched Ravi present the case to the judge, and Ravi fought boldly in my stead and even submitted some proof that I had indeed not purchased anything illegal. My dad testified as a witness to me being present at home and not someplace else making some illegal purchase. The judge took merely a minute to decide my fate. Not guilty. I cried a breath of results of relief. The nightmare was finally over. But it had just begun in my case, and once back at home, I noticed a change in the aura, and it felt as if everyone was trying to avoid me. My mother and Jay were mad at me, and I too refused to speak to them until they saw what they had done was wrong and apologized to me. Jay's mistake had landed me in jail, and my mother expected me to take the brunt of it. Was Jay really so beloved to her that she was willing to sacrifice her other child for him? Nevertheless, I had my father by my side. I woke up one day just to chatter and bustle of activities outside my room. Mom was having one of her get-together parties and invited her sister over. My aunt, which goes by the name Maya. I did not like my aunt, and I mean it, I absolutely did not like her. Well, she and I have a very bitter history. She had caught me scolding Jay for not doing his work and walked over to me as I was chilling in bed. She berated me for not working and unleashing stuff on my brother. I had told her it was not her business how I dealt with my brother and had kept Mom and left, looking rather mad. I dreaded the fact that she was here. Nonetheless, I made an effort to put on my best and not show even a glimpse of my suffering. I sat down beside Father as he told me that Mom had discussed what happened with her, and he warned me to watch out for Maya. Maya began talking to my dad, and I did overhear their conversation, and she shifted from her family to me in a very, very mocking sort of tone, taunting my father for giving a lot of liberty to his own daughter. I sat there dumbfolded as my anger just started to boil. My dad had only ignored her words and looked towards me in a bid to get me to calm down and maintain my composure. The final straw in the bag was my mother. He brought out a few snacks for all of us just to munch on, and there were a few of my uncles and cousins there. Nina sat down beside Maya and started her ranting. I could see that her whole purpose was to humiliate me in front of everyone. She proclaimed loudly, gaining everyone's attention, how kids today cannot be trusted, and when caught, they would try to pin the blame on their innocent close ones. My aunt pushed her to speak further, asking her to elaborate on her point, and she gave me a nasty look towards me before she continued how I had indulged in illegal activities and had tried to pin the blame on poor, innocent Jay. The anger, which I had kept compressed, resurfaced and blew out of proportion as I screamed at Nina to shut up and ran to my room, slamming the door behind me. I was still angry and walked out and told everyone how the truth about what Jay had done in stealing my credit card to make illegal purchases and his newfound interest in drugs. Jay did look pretty embarrassed as my mom kept her head down. The next day, in my anger, I sat drafting a letter to Jay's college informing them about his and Krish's bad habits and indulgence in illegal activities, and asking them just to simply keep an eye out for them. My dad had promised to help me with sorting of my credit card, but now, after I have taken my revenge on my brothers, I feel a bit conflicted. Should I have kept it a secret among the family as my mother asked me to? Or am I the a-hole for betraying my brother? What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. So today's story takes place in India, and oh boy, is this a wild ride. I have two updates for you. The first update is rather short, but update number 2 has some information in there that's going to make you say, what? If you guys want to support the channel, the super easy way to do it is free. All you have to do is click that subscribe button. That's for daily videos as well, so you never miss an upload. So guys, let's just jump right in it. Update number 1. It's been a few days since the party and my family, except my dad, has been avoiding me. They've been treating me like some sort of black spot in their family, and the situation at my home only began getting worse. I needed to get out, but I did not see a way. I would have to find a new job and a new place to live, and I have my credit card bill to deal with. I also had to deal with my mother giving me these weird looks and asking me to move out as she no longer wanted me to stay with her. Help came in the form of my dad. He had devised a plan. He and I would fly to a different city and stay for a few days as he helped me hunt for a place to live and a job. And if that did not work out, we would fly back home and look for a new place for me to live, preferably close to where I work. Last week, my dad flew us both to another big city. I don't know how I'm going to survive alone here, but I'm determined to try my best. I found a job and I have found a place to live too. Albeit a bit expensive, my father, as he promised, has been supporting me financially with the move. He would do so until I've settled down in the new city. My mother, Nina, and Jay have decided to cut me off totally and refuse to even speak to me. I hope things quiet down for a bit now, and I'm deeply saddened by the bond Jay and I had lost in the midst of all this. Maybe someday, when we meet again, we both could work towards recovering it. Update number 2. This post blew up, and I've not been active on here as I had my life to tend to, and I've decided to give you guys an update on what's happened. It's been 3 years since my move to another city, and the city has been treating me quite well. You see, I do miss my family, and I meet up with my father often, who keeps me updated on everything that's been happening back at home. Jay's graduating soon, and Dad decided to throw him a farewell party. He has been persuading me to attend it as it was some commemorative day from my younger brother. He told me that it's been a long time since the incident and that everyone had probably simply forgotten about it by now. I gave in to his request and thought it would be nice to see my family after such a long time. I, however, had no idea about the altercation that was going to happen at the place of the party. I bought a ticket back home, and the moment I stepped inside, the old memories came rushing back to me as my eyes started tearing up. No one was around except my father, who engulfed me in a hug as I walked in. My brother and mother were out getting ready for the event, and I got dressed and Dad drove us to the event venue. My mom was standing at the entrance greeting the guests coming in, and when she saw me, her face contorted and she gave what seemed like a half smile. How was this wrong, was I? And thinking that everyone would have forgotten the past, at least my mom had not. I walk inside and discuss my job and life back at my place with my relatives, and in the middle of this talk, something catches my eye. I'm unsure I can explain how hurt I felt when I realized what's going on. My mother, aglow with happiness, is rushing and calling for everyone. In her hands are bright banners congratulating my brother on his graduation. I look for my father for an explanation, but he just shakes his head at me. I know then that he had no idea about my mother's plans. Despite the stark contrast in how she reacted to my graduation and my brother's, I stayed silent for a long time. It'll always bother me how my mother has treated us so differently. Jay has rarely done anything to warrant the kind of love that he gets from our mother, yet he receives love like he's achieved something. All of this realization and awareness gets through to me eventually. In utter disdain, I look for Jay. I've done so much for this family, yet I've always felt slighted by everyone except my father. If not for me, no one else will be able to teach my brother to be a good man. Jay looks surprised when he notices me. He had not even expected me to be present there. Should I be angry or hurt? Honestly, I refuse to feel anything of that kind for now, and my goal is to talk about something else entirely. In anger, I hold back nothing. I speak out about everything he's done wrong and how these things have hurt this caring sister so much. Bravely, I even say it to his face that he's ruined my life. I said it's ironic that he's enjoying his own after ruining mine, and it must have got to him because he immediately closes his mouth. Well, I know he wants to say something, but I'm unsure if I want to hear anything from his mouth anymore. So, while he stands there in silence with his head down, I emotionally continue my complaints. I point out that despite everything, he never even apologized to me after what he did. I even asked him how he could stay silent when his sister went to prison for no reason. If he did not have the guts to face the police for what he did, why did he even dare to get involved in illegal businesses anyways? While I berated him for all the right reasons, Auntie Maya stood listening. Just when I finished asking my brother what he is thinking about the future, remarking if he thinks of doing the same thing, she snidely commented on my unwelcomed presence in my own family's gathering. I have been irritated since my mother's announcement, and now her comments have made me even more upset. It's always annoyed me that she's never learned to understand her limits outside her home, but the fact that she's literally willing to create the drama out in the open is so frustrating. Both my brother and I turned to her. Her first comment, just like my mother's, is about my appearance. Eventually, she jumps on the apparent cruelty I keep showing to Jay. This apparent curiosity, everyone is speaking the truth and she hates the truth. After throwing comments on my manners, she jumps on to say how I should have served my sentence to learn a much-needed lesson. On top of all that, she even comments a little about my character, before eventually settling on mourning that it's sad that my mother's children have turned different ways. Jay appears to be a sacred figure, and I must remind that this is a party. Guests are present here. All of them are watching this, and sadly no one speaks up. Although I'm angry, I still hope for some support from one of them, and surely not everyone believes what she's saying, right? As if to prove me right, it's Jay who speaks up first. Boy, does he get Maya upset the moment he finishes. It gets on her nerves, and she talks about respecting elders and something, and now he even seems divided on her previous statements, and by the time Jay has finished telling her that she has no right to spread fake information to anyone anymore, she slapped him in humiliation. It's one thing to be old, but being caught lying is so embarrassing. Angry at her reaction, I stand between her and my brother. This situation is getting out of hand, and I need it to end now. When my mother and father tried to intervene, I stopped them. Instead, I stare down at Maya, angry, clear on my face, and she seems a little careful now that she's exposed. But her expression has not changed very much. I take advantage of this hesitation and ask her about her interest in my family, and she's never had the right to speak on my family's internal affairs. She didn't even need to know the details of everything that happened, but that's okay. You cannot keep things away from your nosy relatives, can you? Even so, I tell her that as someone her age, she should be ashamed of what she's been doing for a long time. Adults should know better, right? I ask her then why she's so hesitant to act maturely and her behavior is embarrassing. And it's giving everyone secondhand embarrassment, and I tell her that she has ruined my name in our community, and that she will face repercussions for that. She's acted immaturely, and none of what she has actually claimed is right at all. I correct the facts. I inform everyone that what actually happened and why I have to face the charges. Although Jay stands with his head bowed low, clearly ashamed, I feel better about having cleared my name, without worrying about the nonsense opinions of my relatives. This has helped me tremendously in dealing with people like Maya. When I finish speaking, Maya faces a set of awkward and upset relatives. They whisper between each other, all the time eyeing her with mixed feelings. Embarrassed? She raises a hand to silence me. Before she can do so, I grab her hand and push her away. I raise my hand at her, threatening her with further humiliation, and my father calls out my name, but I refuse to look at him. Maya, realizing she's not going to receive any help, leaves, crying and sobbing about our behavior. My mother follows after her, grumbling some things in between, and my mood after that does not improve at all, but I promise to work on my relationship with my brother. After his little daring act today, I think he has the chance to be a better man. I hint at him that we need to talk again after this, and although this mood does not restore, we all sit and eat and talk about every possible gossip. My aunt somehow slips in between these conversations, and boy, do people laugh at their relatives. Oh boy, Aunt Maya was beside herself. I do want to do a quick shout out for OP's brother, which seemed like he found the error in his ways, and changed his tone towards the end of the story, and even stood up for OP. So, in my opinion, I think their relationship is actually going to flourish, and they're going to forgive each other, mainly OP forgiving her brother, because of all the stuff that they went through. However, I would like to hear from you guys about exactly what you would have done if you found out your brother was buying some very bad things with your debit card. So drop your comments down below. There was a little argument in the comment section about who was the worst person in this story, and I'll just say, I was thinking it was going to be basically an everyone sucks here type of thing. Not talking about the OP or her father, talking about the aunt, OP's brother, and OP's mother, since they all played a role in this. But it looks like I was wrong, because the comment section was so mad at the aunt. I mean, they said that they could not stand Aunt Maya. Let me know what your thoughts are. Who do you think was the worst character in this story? Drop it in the comment section down below. Guys, thank you for joining me today. I do hope you enjoyed the story. If you want daily videos, all you gotta do is subscribe to the channel, and you're almost guaranteed to have a story to watch every single day. Animated, narrated, covering a lot of topics, inheritance dramas, mother-in-law disputes, heck, in-law disputes, period. Private investigator stories, affair partners, I mean, we cover it all. Also, if you want daily updates from the day-to-day business throughout the channels, and some short stories that are going to be some very crazy stories, you're going to want to check out the Instagram channel, Mr. Reddito. You can find that directly below with all my links in the comments section. Guys, have a fantastic day. I'll see you tomorrow, and just remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.